Your mom told you grandma can't see you. That's not true, sweetie. Your mom is a liar. She's keeping you from us because she's selfish. That was my sister-in-law, Brenda, crouching down to meet my 10-year-old son's eyes at his own school picnic, right there on the grass where kids were playing tag and eating popsicles. Liam's face crumpled like paper being crushed. She's not a liar, he shouted, his voice cracking. My brother-in-law, Tom, put a hand on Liam's shoulder. Sorry, kid. Adults have to tell hard truths sometimes. Your mom isn't being honest with you. I was walking over with 2 lemonades in my hands when I heard every word. I froze. The cups trembled in my grip. And behind them, standing near the grill, Principal Davis slowly lowered his hot dog, his expression turning to stone. I'm Harper, and I'm 36 years old. I'm a single mom to Liam, who is the best kid you will ever meet. He's kind. He's curious. He asks me every night before bed if the moon is closer on some days than others, and I always look it up with him so we can learn together. That's the kind of life I've built for us. Quiet, gentle, full of small discoveries. I work from home as a freelance content writer. I chose that career on purpose, not because I lacked ambition, but because I wanted to be the one standing at the door when Liam got home from school. I wanted to be the one asking about his day, heating up his snack, sitting beside him while he did his homework. That mattered more to me than any office or title. For years ago, my husband, Derek, died in a car accident. It was a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day you don't think about twice until it becomes the day that changes everything. He was driving home from work. A truck ran a red light. And, just like that, the man I loved, the father of my son, was gone. I was 32. Liam was 6. And the world didn't stop spinning even though ours did. The Carlyles, Derek's family, did not grieve the way I expected. I thought we would hold each other up. I thought shared loss would bring us closer. Instead, they turned on me. Within weeks of the funeral, Brenda started making comments. It's interesting how calm you are, Harper. You seem like you're handling this a little too well. Then it became accusations. They claimed I was after Derek's life insurance. The truth? That policy barely covered the funeral costs and 2 months of rent. There was no windfall. There was no secret fortune. There was just a grieving woman trying to figure out how to explain to her 6-year-old why Daddy wasn't coming home. But the Carlyles didn't care about the truth. They cared about control. They cared about the story they could tell themselves to make sense of their pain. And in that story, I was the villain. The outsider who had married into their family and was now keeping their grandson from them. Except I wasn't keeping Liam from anyone. Not at first. I welcomed visits. I drove Liam to their house on weekends. I sent photos and updates. But every visit ended with Brenda whispering things to Liam about how sad Grandma was, or Tom making comments about how Liam needed a real family environment. The digs were constant. The undermining was relentless. And when I finally set boundaries, they used those boundaries as proof that I was the problem. My dream is simple. I don't want fame. I don't want revenge. I want to give Liam a stable, happy childhood and build a secure life for us. That's it. That's the whole dream. But the Carlyles have always seen my grief and my single motherhood as weakness. They've looked at my small apartment and my work-from-home life and decided I'm not enough. Not enough money, not enough family, not enough stability. What they don't understand is that I'm not confrontational. I'm not wealthy like them. But I have a voice they've never bothered to listen to, and I have a platform they don't even know exists. If you've ever had someone attack your character, especially as a parent, then you already know the specific kind of pain I'm about to describe. It's not just anger. It's a deep, gut-level fear that someone might actually believe the lies. If that sounds familiar, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is for people fighting quiet battles, the ones nobody sees, but you feel every single day. I want to build something here, a community where we can be honest about what we've been through and what we've overcome. So let me ask you this. What is the one thing you wish people truly understood about your situation? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Now let's go. The school picnic was supposed to be a good day. It was early October, the kind of afternoon where the air smells like cut grass and someone's always burning something on a charcoal grill. Liam had been talking about it for a week. His class was doing a relay race, and he'd been practicing his sprints in the hallway, sliding on his socks. I told him he was going to win. He told me winning wasn't the point. Then he paused and said, "But I'm still going to try really hard." That's my kid. I packed sandwiches, a bag of chips, and 2 bottles of lemonade. The plan was simple. Show up, cheer loud, eat too much, go home happy. What I didn't plan for was seeing Tom's silver SUV in the parking lot. My stomach dropped the second I spotted it. They weren't supposed to be there. This wasn't their school. This wasn't their event. But there they were, standing near the picnic tables like they'd been invited, Brenda in a floral blouse with her phone already out, Tom in sunglasses with his arms crossed. I told myself to stay calm. Don't react. Don't give them ammunition. So I smiled at a few other parents, set down our things at a table near the playground, and went to grab lemonade from the refreshment station. That's when I heard it. Brenda's voice, sugary and deliberate, talking to my son. "Your mom told you Grandma can't see you." "That's not true, sweetie." I stopped walking. "Your mom is a liar. She's keeping you from us because she's selfish." The lemonade cups shook in my hands. Liam's voice came next, small but fierce. "She's not a liar." And then Tom. Calm, patronizing Tom. "Sorry, kid. Adults have to tell hard truths sometimes. Your mom isn't being honest with you." I walked over. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. "What are you doing?" I said, and my voice came out louder than I intended. Every parent within earshot turned to look. Brenda stood up slowly, smoothing her blouse. "We're just talking to our nephew, Harper. There's no need to make a scene. You just called me a liar to my son's face." "Well," Tom said, removing his sunglasses, "if the shoe fits." I felt the heat rise from my chest to my face. Other parents were watching. Liam was watching. A mother I recognized from the PTA was standing 3 feet away with her mouth open. "You need to leave," I said. "This is a school event. You weren't invited." Brenda tilted her head. "We're family, Harper. We don't need an invitation to see Liam. Unless, of course, you're trying to isolate him." Which is exactly what we've been saying. That's when Principal Davis stepped in. He'd been standing close enough to hear everything. He was a tall man with a calm demeanor, the kind of person who never raised his voice because he didn't need to. "Excuse me," he said, stepping between us. "I'm Principal Davis. This is a school-sponsored event for students and their parents or guardians. I'm going to need to ask you both to leave." Tom puffed up. "We're the boys' uncle and aunt. We have every right to be here." "You don't," Principal Davis said flatly. "Not without prior authorization. And I just heard you tell a child that his mother is a liar. That's not something I'm going to overlook. Please leave now." Brenda's face went red. She grabbed Tom's arm and they walked away, but not before she looked back at me with an expression I can only describe as a promise. A promise that this wasn't over. Liam ran to me and buried his face in my shirt. I held him and told him everything was okay, but nothing was okay. My hands were still shaking. Parents were whispering. I could feel their eyes on me, and I couldn't tell if they were sympathetic or suspicious. That's what the Carlyles were good at. They planted seeds of doubt. Even when they lost the moment, they won the narrative. That evening, after Liam was in bed, my phone rang. It was Principal Davis. He told me he was calling an emergency meeting at the school for the following week. The purpose was to address what he called the emotional manipulation of a student on school grounds. He said he'd witnessed the interaction himself and that the school counselor would be present. He asked if the Carlyles had done this before. I told him yes. He was quiet for a long moment, and then he said, "Mrs. Harper, I want you to know that this school takes the emotional safety of its students very seriously. We'll get to the bottom of this." I thanked him, hung up, and sat on the edge of my bed in the dark for a long time, listening to the sound of Liam breathing through the thin wall between our rooms. That sound, the soft, steady rhythm of my son sleeping safely, was the only thing that kept me from falling apart. What happened next proved that the picnic wasn't a spontaneous outburst. It was the beginning of a campaign. Within days, the Carlyles began their attack on multiple fronts, and each one was more calculated than the last. The first betrayal was social. The morning after the picnic, I opened my phone and saw that Brenda had posted a long, emotional message on her social media. She didn't use my name. She didn't have to. She wrote about a family member who was struggling emotionally after a loss and refusing help from loved ones who only want the best for her child. She said she was worried and heartbroken. She used words like isolation and concerning behavior. The comments section was full of people offering prayers and support, strangers who had no idea they were being recruited into a smear campaign. She tagged mutual friends. She tagged Derek's old college buddies. She tagged people from our church. And it worked. Within a week, I noticed changes. Parents from school who used to wave at me in the parking lot started looking away. A mom I used to trade recipes with stopped responding to my texts. My neighbor, who used to knock on my door with extra soup, suddenly couldn't make eye contact. Nobody confronted me. Nobody asked for my side. They just quietly stepped back, creating a growing ring of silence around me and Liam. It was like watching a tide go out and realizing you're standing on an island that's getting smaller by the hour. I tried to address it once. I called my friend Tammy, someone I'd known since before Derek died. Tammy, you saw what Brenda posted. You know that's not true. The pause on the other end told me everything. I don't want to get in the middle of it, Harper. It's a family thing. It's not a family thing. They're lying about me. I just think maybe you should talk to them, you know? Work it out. For Liam's sake. That phrase. For Liam's sake. As if every breath I took, every decision I made, wasn't already for Liam's sake. I hung up and didn't call anyone else. The second betrayal was legal. 10 days after the picnic, a man in a gray suit knocked on my door. He handed me an envelope and said, "You've been served." Inside were legal papers. Official-looking, thick, intimidating. The Carlyles were filing for grandparent visitation rights. They were also requesting a home evaluation, citing concerns about Liam's emotional well-being and my capacity to provide a stable environment. I read the documents 3 times, my hands trembling, the smell of the coffee I'd been making growing cold and bitter on the counter behind me. The language was carefully crafted to sound alarming without saying anything specific. Words like potential emotional neglect and restricted access to extended family. No evidence. No incidents. Just language designed to make me look dangerous. I couldn't afford a lawyer. Not a real one. I found a legal aid organization and spoke to a woman named Clara who reviewed the papers and told me something that made me go still. This filing is largely performative, she said. Grandparent rights cases are extremely difficult to win when a parent is competent and present. But the home evaluation request is a pressure tactic. They want you to fold before it ever gets to a courtroom. So what do? You document everything. Every interaction. Every social media post. Every uninvited visit. You build a record. I bought a notebook that day. A thick, spiral-bound one with a blue cover. I started writing everything down. Dates, times, exact words. I kept screenshots in a folder on my laptop. I was no longer just surviving. I was building a case. The third betrayal was the one that scared me the most. It was a Thursday evening around 7. Liam and I were on the couch watching a movie. There was a bowl of popcorn between us, and he had butter on his chin, and he was laughing at something a cartoon dog was doing. It was perfect. And then someone pounded on my front door. I opened it to find Tom and Brenda standing in the hallway. "We're here to see Liam," Tom said, pushing past me before I could respond. "You can't just walk in here," I said, stepping in front of him. Brenda already had her phone out, recording. "We're documenting that we attempted a visit and were denied," she said, her voice calm, rehearsed. "This will be part of our filing. Turn that off." "I don't have to. We're in a common area. This is my home. And Liam is our family." Liam appeared behind me, his face pale. "Mom? Why are they here?" "It's okay, baby. Go to your room. We just want to talk to you, Liam," Brenda said over my shoulder, still recording. "We miss you so much. Go to your room, Liam. Now." He ran. I heard his door close and then the sound of his closet door, which meant he was hiding inside it. My 10-year-old son was hiding in his closet in his own home because these people had terrified him. I turned back to them. "Get out. Right now. Or I'm calling the police. Tom raised his hands. See? This is what we're talking about. She's hostile. She's irrational. I closed the door in their faces and locked it. Then I called the police. An officer came, took a report, and told me there wasn't much he could do since they hadn't technically broken in. But the report was on file. I added it to my notebook. That night, after Liam finally fell asleep, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I was done being reactive. I was done being afraid. It was time to use the one thing they never knew I had. Here is the thing the Carlyles didn't know about me. Here is the thing almost nobody knew. For 3 years, I had been writing a blog. Not under my own name. Not with my face attached. It was called The Grounded Mama, and it was anonymous. I started it 6 months after Derek died, sitting at this same desk at 2 in the morning, unable to sleep, needing to put the chaos in my head somewhere. The first post was called When Grief Doesn't Look the Way People Expect. I wrote about how I didn't cry at the grocery store or fall apart at school pickup. I wrote about how my grief lived in the quiet moments, in reaching for the wrong side of the bed, in hearing a song on the radio and forgetting for 3 seconds that he was gone. That post got 400 views in a week. I wrote another. Then another. Within a year, The Grounded Mama had a following. Not massive, not viral, but real. Loyal. Thousands of people, mostly mothers, mostly women who were navigating grief and toxic family dynamics and the quiet, invisible labor of holding everything together for their kids. I wrote about boundaries. I wrote about manipulation tactics used by controlling relatives. I wrote about the guilt that comes with protecting your child from people who share their blood. Every post was honest. Every post was raw. And every post was written by someone who was living it in real time. The blog made money. Not a fortune, but enough. Sponsorships, affiliate links, a small paid newsletter. Combined with my freelance writing, it was what kept our lights on and our fridge full. But more than the income, The Grounded Mama gave me something I desperately needed. It gave me a voice. In my real life, I was quiet. I was careful. I was the woman who didn't fight back because she was too exhausted and too outnumbered. But on the blog, I was articulate and clear and strong. And people listened. Here's the part that still makes me laugh, even though it's not funny. The Carlyles had shared articles from The Grounded Mama. Brenda, of all people, had reposted one of my pieces on her social media. It was a post I'd written about recognizing emotional manipulation in family settings. She shared it with the caption, "So important. Everyone should read this." Tom's wife had commented, "This writer really gets it." They were attacking me with one hand and sharing my advice with the other. They had no idea. Not a single clue. And as I sat at my desk that Thursday night, listening to the silence of my apartment after the police had come and gone, I realized something. I had a platform ready to tell the true story. I just had to decide when to use it. 3 days after the uninvited visit, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Harper, it's Rachel. Don't delete this. I need to talk to you." Rachel was my cousin-in-law, Derek's cousin on his mother's side. She was the family's quiet rebel, the one who asked uncomfortable questions at holidays and got punished for it with silence and exclusion. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year, not because of any falling out, but because the Carlyles had made it clear that anyone who maintained contact with me would be cut off. Rachel had chosen self-preservation. I didn't blame her. Until now. We met at a coffee shop 2 towns over, the kind of place where the chairs don't match and the music is too loud, which was good because what she told me needed to be drowned out. "They're not doing this because they love Liam," Rachel said, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "I mean, maybe Tom does in his own way. But this whole thing is about money." "What money?" I asked. "I don't have any money. Not yours. The grandparents. Derek's parents have a trust. It's substantial. But access to it is tied to family involvement. If Brenda and Tom can demonstrate that they're actively involved in raising Liam, they can petition the trust administrators for financial support." I stared at her. "You're telling me this entire campaign, the social media posts, the legal papers showing up at my door, is about money. Brenda is in debt, Harper. Serious debt. And Tom's business is failing. His landscaping company lost 3 major contracts last year. They're desperate. Rachel pulled out her phone and showed me text messages. Brenda to Tom, talking about getting Liam back as if he were an asset, not a child. Tom to his mother, promising that once we have regular access, we can approach the trust. There it was. In plain text. My son was a pawn in a financial scheme dressed up as a custody concern. Rachel also told me something else that made my blood run cold. They're confident, Harper. They've been telling the whole family that you're about to crack. That you'll agree to shared custody just to make the pressure stop. Brenda told everyone at dinner last Sunday that it's basically a done deal. I thanked Rachel. I hugged her. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. The school meeting was in 4 days. They thought I was going to crack. They thought the pressure was working. They had no idea what I was bringing to that table. The tension solidified around me like armor. I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready. The emergency meeting was held on a Wednesday afternoon in Principal Davis's office. It was a large room with tall windows, bookshelves lining the walls, and a round table in the center, the kind of setup designed to feel collaborative rather than adversarial. But there was nothing collaborative about what was happening in that room. The smell of old books and wood polish hung in the air, mixing with the faint scent of the lavender diffuser the school counselor, Mrs. Reeves, had placed on the shelf. On one side of the table sat Tom and Brenda. They'd brought a family friend who they introduced as their advocate. He was a man in a too-tight blazer who nodded a lot and took notes on a yellow legal pad. On the other side sat me. Just me. Principal Davis sat at the head of the table. Mrs. Reeves sat beside him. A school board representative was present near the door, quiet and observant. Tom spoke first. He'd clearly rehearsed. "We appreciate the school calling this meeting," he said, folding his hands on the table. "We've been concerned about Liam's well-being for some time. His mother, and I say this with love, has been struggling since my brother's passing. She's become increasingly isolated, and we believe Liam is being emotionally harmed by her refusal to allow family involvement in his life." Brenda nodded. "We've tried reaching out. Multiple times. She turns us away. She turns everyone away. If you look at social media, you'll see that many people in our community share our concern." She pulled out printed screenshots of her own posts and the sympathetic comments beneath them. She actually presented her own smear campaign as evidence. I almost laughed. Almost. Mrs. Reeves asked me if I'd like to respond. I said I would. I opened my laptop. The room went quiet except for the hum of the overhead lights and the distant sound of a custodian's cart rolling down the hall. "My name is Harper," I said. "And for the past 3 years, I've been the anonymous writer behind a parenting blog called The Grounded Mama." I turned the laptop around to show the blog's dashboard. The follower count. The engagement metrics. The hundreds of articles I had written, all displayed under a clean, professional layout. Brenda's face went blank. Tom's mouth opened slightly. The Grounded Mama focuses on grief, toxic family dynamics, and single parenting, I continued. It has over 40,000 loyal readers. It's been featured in parenting magazines and recommended by family therapists. I built it from nothing at my desk after my son went to bed because I needed a place to process what was happening to us. I clicked to a specific folder. These are drafted posts about what has been happening to me and Liam over the past 2 weeks. The picnic incident. The legal intimidation. The unannounced visit to my home. The details have been changed to protect privacy, but the events are documented with timestamps, police reports, and screenshots. Then I opened another tab. "And this," I said, "is something I find very interesting." I pulled up Brenda's social media profile. There, pinned near the top of her feed, was a shared article from The Grounded Mama. The title was 5 Signs You're Dealing with Emotional Manipulation from Family Members. Brenda had shared it with the caption, "So important. Everyone should read this." I looked at her. "You shared my work, Brenda. You praised it. You told your friends to read it. And the whole time, you were doing exactly what the article describes. To me. To my son." The silence in that room was deafening. Tom turned to Brenda. "You shared her blog?" "I didn't know it was her blog." Brenda's voice cracked. That's exactly the point, I said. You didn't know because you've never actually listened to me. You've never tried to understand me. You've only tried to control the narrative. And you've used my son as a tool to do it. Principal Davis leaned forward. Mrs. Carlyle, Mr. Carlyle. I witnessed the incident at the picnic myself. I heard you tell a 10-year-old boy that his mother is a liar. I heard you undermine his trust in his primary caregiver in a public setting, in front of his peers. And now I'm hearing that this behavior extends well beyond that one event. Mrs. Reeves spoke next. I've reviewed Liam's recent behavior reports. His teacher noted increased anxiety, difficulty concentrating, and a reluctance to talk about his family. These are textbook signs of a child caught in the middle of adult conflict. Tom's advocate had stopped writing. He was staring at the table. Brenda's face was red, and she was gripping the edge of her chair. Tom tried one more time. We were just worried about the boy. We have a right to be involved. You have a right to be respectful, Principal Davis said. And you failed at that. Comprehensively. The meeting ended with Principal Davis asking the Carlyles to leave. They walked out without another word. Brenda's heels clicked fast and hard against the hallway floor, the sound of someone retreating, not walking. The school board representative stayed behind and shook my hand. After the meeting, things moved quickly. Principal Davis, true to his word, worked with the school counselor to create a formal safety plan for Liam. The Carlyles were banned from school grounds without my explicit written approval. Liam was given access to weekly check-ins with Mrs. Reeves, a space where he could talk about his feelings without pressure. His teacher was briefed on the situation and began keeping closer notes on his emotional state. Within 2 weeks, his anxiety started to ease. He stopped hiding in his closet. He started laughing at dinner again. I called Clara, my legal aid attorney, the same day the meeting ended. I told her everything, including what Rachel had revealed about the financial motive. Clara drafted a cease and desist letter that was surgically precise. It addressed the defamation on social media. It referenced the police report from the uninvited visit. It cited the school's formal documentation of the picnic incident. And it included a single, carefully worded paragraph suggesting that we were aware of the financial motivations behind their custody petition and were prepared to present that information in court if necessary. The letter was sent on a Friday. By Monday, the Carlyles' lawyer called Clara and asked to withdraw the grandparent rights petition. By Wednesday, Brenda deleted her social media posts. By the following week, the phone calls stopped. The unannounced visits stopped. The whisper campaign dried up. They didn't reach out to apologize. They didn't try to reconcile. They simply vanished, like bullies always do when the light gets too bright. Liam asked me once, about a month later, why Uncle Tom and Aunt Brenda didn't come around anymore. I knelt down and looked him in the eyes. Sometimes, buddy, people make choices that mean they can't be part of our lives for a while. It's not your fault. It was never your fault. He nodded. Then he asked if we could make tacos for dinner. We did. And they were perfect. I still write the grounded mama. But now I write with a different kind of clarity. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not writing from a place of fear. I'm writing from a place of power, the kind of power that comes not from money or connections, but from telling the truth when no one expects you to. They tried to weaponize my motherhood. They tried to make my love for my son look like weakness, like instability, like something to be managed and corrected. But my love for Liam was never the problem. It was the thing that kept me standing. And my secret platform, the one they never knew existed, the one they shared and praised without ever seeing the woman behind it, became my ultimate defense. Not a weapon, a mirror. I held it up, and they saw themselves clearly for the first time. And they couldn't stand the reflection. If this story hit close to home, I want to talk to you directly for a moment. If someone in your family has tried to destroy your reputation, especially as a parent, you know how isolating it is. You know the specific pain of being slandered by people who are supposed to love you. You know what it feels like to have your character attacked in front of your children, in front of your community, and to watch people believe the lies because the liars are louder than you. I want you to know something. Being quiet does not mean you are weak. Choosing not to fight in public does not mean you have lost. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is document, prepare, and wait for the right moment to speak. If you've been through something like this, I want to hear your story. Tell me in the comments how you cleared your name. What was your turning point? And if you know a parent who is going through a smear campaign right now, someone who feels alone and overwhelmed, click that share button. Send them this video.